One day, after returning from a hunt, Kofi approached Amma. Why has the universe cursed me with only daughters? A long time ago, there was a man named Kofi who lived in a village in Kumasi, Ghana. The town was at the base of a big mountain. His strength and skill as a hunter were known all over the town. It was a matter of pride for Kofi to follow the practices and customs of his people. It was thought that a man was only valuable if he had a son or grandson to take on his name and legacy. Kofi was married to Amma, a kind and warm woman. The three girls they had together were named Esi, Ajao, and Apena. Even though Amma and the girls brought Kofi a lot of love and happiness, he couldn't hide the fact that he wished to have a son. Having a son was important to him because he thought that without one, his line would die out and no one would remember him or carry on his skills. As the years passed, Kofi's sadness turned into bitterness. Over time, he spent less and less time at home and more time hunting in the woods, away from his wife and children. He told Amma many times that he was unhappy and blamed her for not giving him a son. Amma, heartbroken by his words and action, did her best to comfort their girls and shield them from their father's growing coldness. One day, after returning from a hunt, Kofi approached Amma. Why has the universe cursed me with only daughters? He demanded. What use are they to me? They cannot carry on my name. They cannot become hunters, and they will leave our home when they marry. Amma, with tears in her eyes, tried to reason with him. Our daughters are a blessing. Kofi, she said softly. They are strong, intelligent, and full of promise. They can achieve great things, and they carry your blood and spirit. But Kofi was unfazed. In his frustration and desperation, he made a choice that would change his life forever. He packed his belongings and left his family, abandoning Amma and their girls. He stated that he would not return until he had found a way to have a son, a male heir who would fulfill his desires and expectations. Kofi traveled far and wide, seeking solutions from seers, healers, and wise men. He went into remote villages, crossed vast deserts, and climbed high mountains. Everywhere he went to, he asked the same question: how could he ensure the birth of a son? But the answers he got were always the same. Children were gifts from the gods, and no one could guarantee the gender of a child. One day, Kofi found himself deep in an ancient forest, a place of tales and misery. It was rumored that strong spirits lived in this woodland, and that anyone who entered without having a good intentions would never come out again. Desperate and reckless, Kofi ventured into the heart of the forest, trying to find a way to change his fate. As he walked through the dense trees, Kofi came upon a clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a majestic tree, taller and more magnificent than any he had ever seen. Its trunk was wide and covered in elaborate carvings, and its leaves shimmered with an ethereal glow. As Kofi approached the tree, a figure appeared before him, a beautiful woman with skin like moonlight and eyes that shone like stars. She was the spirit of the forest. Who dares to enter my domain? The spirit asked, her voice melodic yet forceful. Even though she was intimidating, Kofi did not hesitate. I am Kofi, a man seeking a son to carry on my name, he replied. I have only daughters, and I have abandoned them in search of a way to have a male child. The spirit of the forest regarded him with a mixture of sadness and sternness. "You have abandoned your children because of your own misguided beliefs," she said. "You seek a son, but you do not see the gift you already have. You have come here with a heart full of greed and pride." Kofi felt a surge of anger. "I need a son to fulfill my duties and continue my lineage," he argued. "My daughters cannot do that." The spirit's eyes softened, but her voice stayed firm. "You have much to learn, Kofi," she said. "You have entered my forest with impure intention, and for that, you must face the consequences." With a wave of her hand, the spirit cast a spell on Kofi. The ground beneath him began to tremble, and he felt a strange feeling course through his body. He looked down and saw his skin changing into bark, his limbs stiffening, and his voice fading away. In moments, Kofi was changed into a tree, rooted in the clearing, unable to move or speak. "You shall remain here as a tree until you learn the true value of family and the blessings you have forsaken," the spirit declared. "Only then will you be freed from this curse." With those words, the spirit disappeared, leaving Kofi alone in the new form. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. As a tree, Kofi could see and hear everything around him, but he could not move or speak. He watched the season change, the forest animals come and go, and the sun rise and set. He felt the passing of time but could do nothing to change his fate. During his long imprisonment, Kofi had much time to reflect on his deeds. He thought of Amma and their girls, remembering the moments of joy they had shared and the love they had given him. He realized how much he had taken or for granted, and how his concern with having a son blinded him to the blessing he already had. He saw the pain he had caused his family and felt deep sorrow for his actions. One day, many years later, a group of peasants entered the forest. They were on a trip to collect rare herbs and plants for healing. Among them was a young woman with a familiar face and a gentle manner. As she reached the clearing, Kofi recognized her. It was AC, his eldest daughter, now grown into a beautiful and wise young woman. AC and the neighbors began to gather herbs from around the clearing. As they walked, AC noticed the towering tree at the center. She felt drawn to it, feeling something special about the tree. She put her hand on its back and closed her eyes, feeling a strange connection. Unbeknownst to her, the touch of his daughter brought a flicker of awareness to Kofi's mind, a reminder of the love he has forsaken. That night, as the locals set up camp near the clearing, AC shared a story with them. She spoke of her father, Kofi, who had left them in search of a son. She talked about how her mother, Amma, had raised her and her sisters with love and strength, teaching them to be strong and resilient. She spoke of the pain of her father's absence, but also of the hope that one day he would return and accept them for who they were. As Kofi listened to his daughter's words, tears welled up in his eyes. Though he could not shed them in his true form, he felt the depth of his remorse and sadness. He understood how wrong he had been to reject his daughters, and how much he had missed by not being a part of their lives. He longed to tell them how sorry he was, to beg for their forgiveness and to hold them close. The next morning, as the people prepared to leave, AC returned to the tree. She put her hand on its back one small time and whispered, "I don't know if you can hear me, but if you are, know that we still love you, Father. We forgive you and we hope you find peace." With those words, a strong surge of energy coursed through the tree. The spirit of the forest appeared once more, her presence filling the area with a radiant light. She looked at Kofi, her face softening. Kofi, you have finally understood the lesson you were meant to learn, she said. You have seen the error of your ways and felt the weight of your deeds. It is time for you to be free since your daughter has forgiven you. With a wave of her hand, the spirit freed Kofi from the curse. The tree began to transform, its bark peeling away to show human skin. In moments, Kofi stood before the spirit, a man once more. He looked around, confused and overwhelmed, and then at AC, who stood in shock and awe. "Father!" AC whispered, tears in her eyes. Kofi, tears running down his face, nodded. "Yes, my daughter, it is me," he choked out. "I'm so sorry for everything. My own pride and ignorance had blinded me. Can you ever forgive me?" AC rushed toward and hugged her father, holding him tightly. "We've always forgiven you," she said softly. "We've missed you so much." As Kofi held his daughter, the spirit of the forest watched with a gentle smile. "Go home, Kofi," she said. "Cherish your family, for they are the true treasures of your life." Kofi nodded, overwhelmed with thanks. He thanked the spirit for her wisdom and kindness, and then, with AC by his side, he returned to the village. Upon their return, the villagers were surprised to see Kofi, whom they had thought had been lost forever. Amma and the other girls, Ajao and Abena, were filled with emotions as they saw him. Kofi fell to his knees before Amma, tears in his eyes. "Amma, my dear wife, I have been a fool," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I abandoned you and our daughters for a stupid dream. I was wrong to value a son over the beautiful girls you have. Can you ever find it in your heart to forgive me?" Amma, tears streaming down her face, pulled Kofi to his feet. "Kofi, we have missed you every day," she said, her voice gentle but strong. "Our hearts hurt with your absence, but we never stop loving you. You are home now, and there is all that counts." Kofi embraced his wife and daughters, feeling a warmth and love he had never truly enjoyed before. He understood that his family was his greatest treasure, and he vowed never to take them for granted again. Over time, Kofi became a changed man. He became an advocate of equality, telling the village that all children, regardless of gender, were gifts and deserved to be cherished and valued. He shared the story of his transformation, the lessons he learned from the spirit of the forest, and the value of family. His tale became a legend, a story told to children, adults alike, as a warning of the dangers of pride and the power of love and forgiveness. Kofi's daughters grew into remarkable women, each following their own paths and contributing to the village in meaningful ways. AC became a doctor, Ajao an artist, and Abena a storyteller. They brought forward the lessons of their father's journey, spreading kindness, wisdom, and compassion. As for Kofi, he found peace in the love of his family and the knowledge that his legacy was not defined by having a son, but by the love and ideals he passed on to his children. He lived the rest of his days with thanks, always remembering the lesson he learned in the heart of the ancient forest. And so, the story of Kofi and his family became a loved folktale, passed down through generations. It imparted the lessons that true value is determined by the love and respect we give and receive, not by gender or custom. The villagers of Umoya honored this tale, knowing that the true legacy of a person is found in the hearts of those they love. In the end, Kofi's name was known not for the son he never had, but for the loving father he became. And the spirit of the forest, looking from her ethereal rim, smiled, knowing that another soul had learned the true meaning of family and love.